Business Live today.
We begin with the latest figures released by the Ghana Statistical Service showing that inflation has gone up for the first time this year to 13.0% in April. This represents an increase of 0.2 percentage points compared with the rate of 12.8% recorded in March. Now, what this means is that the prices of goods and services, though, continue to increase. The rate of increase in April was higher than that recorded in March. So what exactly are the drivers for the increase in April? Here's acting government statistician Bawadia.
Currently for inflation rate is the non-food which is driving the tempo of inflation that we are observing. Thank you. But if we want the specifics as to what actually pushed up or accounted for the inflation that we are observing for April, then we have mainly transport. The transport group had an increase in the inflation rate by about 9.6%. We also have communications, which also went up by a 0.1 percentage point. And then we have miscellaneous goods and services, which also went up by 0.1 percentage points. These were the key causes of the inflation that we are observing, the 13.0% that we are observing for the month of April 2017.
So meaning that any price change within these groups will affect the inflation rate significantly?
Subsequently, yeah.
Well, economist with data Bank Karijmate has been outlining the implications of the current inflation increment on the economy. He has been speaking with my colleague Emmanuel Bajiriafe, and we're bringing you that subsequently in this bulletin. Now, the Institute of Economic Affairs is proposing the establishment of an independent body that will monitor government's expenditure and ensure it stays within the budget. The Fiscal Council, the IEA says, will, among other things, provide regular briefings to the media about how government is spending and what it is spending on to ensure transparency. The IEA says it has presented its proposal to government and is hopeful it will be adopted. IEA senior economist Dr. Osesibe at a news conference explained the country stands to gain immensely if government is able to rein in on its spending.
Because often we do not have adequate governance and fiscal framework and monitoring mechanism that often ensure that politicians keep to fiscal objectives and fiscal sustainability goals. Although we have passed the PFM Act 2016, which is a semblance of fiscal rule, it did not make provision for monitoring and compliance. Okay, and so in 2017 budget, the government actually, in fact, in the IEA documentation, it made a strong recommendation that we first have to have fiscal council, a fiscal rule, and in addition, we should make effort to come out with a fiscal council. And so government has taken that on board and has made strong commitment to fiscal discipline of indicating its intention to initiate a fiscal council that will serve as a watchdog, monitoring and to ensure compliance to fiscal rules in Ghana.
In other news tonight, government has announced plans to establish industrial parks in all the 10 regions in the country. Now, this is to aid its flagship industrialization policy, the One District, One Factory policy, in order for industries to be established in any part of the country. A Turkish firm announced on Tuesday it would invest some $150 million into the One District, One Factory program. Speaking at a press conference a conference on trade facilitation agreement, Trade Minister Alan Tremontin said these parks are in government's industrialization agenda.
Already, we have created the platform for the kind of production that will require us to be able to move goods freely across our borders. We are also working with the private sector to establish at least one major industrial park in each of our 10 regions. Because all the progress that has been made in China and Asia is about industrial parks, about special economic zones, where you are able to provide dedicated land and service sites for industries to locate. So when my brother talks about industrialization, Ghana is moving on to that level. And that is why we feel that trade facilitation is absolutely important. And last but not the least, obviously, is the important role that the national single window plays in this whole trade facilitation architecture. And as I said, trade facilitation is a process. It's not an event. And we've been working on the national single window for some time. But I believe that we are at a point where now we've elevated it to another level, and it's become a national priority for us.
Well, moving on, the firm that would take over ECG under the MCC Compact program must invest at least $500 million. This would help the government's plan of ensuring that the Ghanaian entity has at least 51% stake in ECG. Energy Minister Boakye Jaku disclosed this to Joy Business after a stakeholders meeting on the Millennium Challenge Compact. The minister also assured that no ECG worker would lose their work as a result of the program. The Millennium Development Authority says it is likely to settle on the new owner of ECG by the close of this year. This would be done after a bidder conference on May 25. Engineer Ura Kwekusafo is chief executive of the authority. All right, so we're working to get you that sound bite. You're still watching Business Live. Moving on to some other stories tonight, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC, is working to implement some programs that will make the country the best place for investments and doing business. The move is part of government strategy to make Ghana the preferred business destination in the region. But can these programs be implemented looking at the current economic environment? Yofi Grant is CEO of the GIPC.
Mandate gives me two responsibilities. First, the investment promotion and marketing the country, and then secondly, playing a key role in the advocacy for reforms and the ease of doing business. And because we actually at GIPC have two goals for the next 4 years. One, to move Ghana to be the best place to do business in, and then two, to make Ghana the most investor-friendly country in Ghana. And so those two in themselves, which have a certain complementary connection, are very important for us. So on one side, we will be doing the investment attraction and marketing. On the other side, we will be driving advocacy for reforms for business and investment climate.
But some will say that it's about the structures. No matter pitching that you do, if the necessary reforms are not on the ground, if I come to Ghana and it takes me about 10 days to register my business, all these things will just not work.
You're absolutely right, but that's what's in the reform. The reform is actually changing the law and putting in the structure to enable some of these things to happen. For example, the one window, one-stop shop, which will be an electronic platform for registration, payment of fees, getting your certificates and all that. We are trying to be creative in making the investment attractive. We are also looking at putting in certain other attractive measures. For example, if you invest, an individual invest up to $5 million, we might consider you for a Ghanaian passport or something we are calling the Ghanaian green card. If you invest a certain amount in properties, then we might consider you given that green card. So you can live there because we attract your investment. So there are quite a number of things that we are thinking of doing. Even at the GIPC, we are looking at our own laws. For example, how useful has capital limits been in protecting our industries? And the research is telling us that it has done very little in protecting our industries. So we are thinking that we should remove those capital limits, but rather infuse incentives for indigenous industries to enable them compete effectively with any other investor that comes, and create a rule-based business environment instead of an exclusivity-based business environment.
Well, as we indicated earlier, the Millennium Development Authority is saying it is likely to settle on the new owner of the ECG by the close of this year. This will be done after a bidder conference on May 25. We can now hear from Engineer Ura Kweku-Safo, who is the Chief Executive of the authority.
Right now, what we are talking about it relates to the structure of the ECG private sector participation, and that is not part of the compact. What the compact indicates is that government will elect to undertake either a partial privatization or a long-term concession, and government has undertaken a long-term concession. So that is an agreement. In terms of the details of the structure, these have to be worked out, but you also have to agree that whatever structure we adopt must be accepted by the market, meaning that, you know, you are looking out in the market, looking for bidders who will show interest in the transaction. So whatever terms you adopt must be acceptable to the bidders.
And so the economists would always want to say all other things being equal. All other things being equal, when would you settle on that concessionaire to lead this whole reorganization or privatization of the ECG?
Well, the arrangement, the current arrangement is that there are a number of processes that we have to go through. We have to go through the tendering process. They submit their tenders. If all goes well, by September, there will be evaluation, approvals, and whatever. And then a decision will be made on who is a preferred concessionaire. And that decision we expect to occur sometime early next year. And then approvals will go through, and then there will be negotiation. And when the negotiation is done and all the approvals are done, then a contract is signed with them by government of Ghana. And when the contract is signed with them, then they will start the process of taking over the management, operation, and investment in ECG.
Aren't you racing against time, if I may ask, in per your calendar, even settling on this concessionaire? Aren't you behind time?
Well, we are behind time, but we are working to catch up on time. As you are well aware, by the terms of the compact, if you are well aware, we are supposed to have financial close of this concession latest by September next year. And looking at the processes that are ahead of us, there are quite a lot of things that we need to do, but we are working to make up for time so that we can meet that timeline.
All right, so let's get some analysis on our top story. One of our top stories this evening about inflation going up for the first time this year, 13% in the month of April. We are getting some analysis now from economist Courage Mate. He's been explaining the implications of the current inflation increment on the economy.
When inflation goes up, you expect interest rates to go up. But if you situate that and what is happening within the current economic dispensation, where we are having a sustained decline in interest rates, especially for treasury bills, you would not expect an increase in interest rates for treasury bills. However, what you expect to happen is that the pace of decline in interest rates on treasury bills could slow down. And if that happens, it will still mean that the expected, reduction in banks' holding of treasury securities as investment will not reduce, because you need that to reduce so that they can lend a lot more to the private sector. So it means that there's going to be a sharp slowdown in the pace of decline in treasury bills. The fact that even though headline inflation has been declining over the last couple of months, the core component of inflation remains high, and the non-food inflation component remains a major and significant determining factor. It's the backdrop of the fact that we expected transport fares to be increased, and it was long overdue in terms of the increase in transport fares. We are now seeing the crystallizing effect on inflation. And to that extent, it supports our views that going forward, the central bank would then have to adopt a more cautious approach in easing monetary policy.
We are taking a short break here on Business Live. We'll be back with the Joy Business Van. Stay with us.
Business Live today.
Welcome back to the program. Now, if you've seen any beautifully crafted metallic sculpture around town, it most likely would be the work of sculptor Constance Swaneker. Well, she's raised a benchmark in the metal and craft industry in the last 17 years. Her firm, Accents and Arts, has become a market leader in iron fabrication. How is she able to succeed in a male-dominated industry? Sheila Tamaklo is in the seat tonight on the Joy Business Van. Sparks flying from hot metal, hammers ringing on iron plates, metal structures being constructed by cutting, bending, and assembling processes. This is Constance Swaneker's world. Constance grew up in different parts of the continent. This diversity in her background strongly influenced her outlook on life and helped her appreciate art. When she returned to Ghana to continue her education, she decided to pursue art at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. She opted for sculpture, one of the few women to do so in her time.
So what we do also here is we play around with color a lot. We play around with all sorts. So ordinarily, maybe if you see railings outside, it will either come maybe in just standard black or white.
Constance Swaneker's journey as a sculptor and an artist started 6 months after she graduated from the university. She decided to open her business, Accents and Art, at her mother's backyard with 2 welders.
You know, when I started business, I started doing small decorative pieces, but in time, people started asking for a wide range of products. And I saw the possibility in the industry. And we sort of went all out. And the more I explored and the more people requested for things, that's when it dawned on me that there was a demand for very creative, well-finished products.
Constance started off with nothing. All she had was a passion for art and her acquired skill. She has over the years brought a lot of color to the profession, which is usually regarded as a roadside job in Ghana. Her niche work can be found in a wide range of upscale homes, offices and diplomatic missions both home and abroad.
What makes our work stand out is the human feel, and we always want our clients to have an emotional connection to the work. So if you look at what she's doing now, that, you know, even though it's a metal piece, it's, you know, she's delicately hand painting the work. So you find that people now are not looking for mass-produced things. They're looking for unique pieces, things that you can see that it's taking, you know, labor of love.
Constance's maiden exhibition, dubbed Passage of Discovery, in July 2011, marked a chapter in her life as an artist and a sculptor. Constance currently serves the top 10% of the population who are attracted to the quality of her products.
One thing that I'll tell you, if you want to make a mark in this industry, is to pay attention to finish. So that's one thing we don't compromise at all. So there's a lot of effort that goes into this department. That means using the right materials, using the right tools, and even the quality of the staffing. People
did not take Constance seriously when she started at first. She was a woman trying to enter a field that is dominated by men.
It was very exhausting in the beginning, always having to fight, always having to prove a point. That means that you doing work above standard. Once I was able to go over that, people don't see you as a woman or a male anymore. They just see you behind a company that does good work.
Good work she's accomplished, and that tells on the number of awards she's received for her outstanding work. Constance has 40 workers now, and she set up an art and design institute to train others, especially women, to be like her. So how has the industry progressed over time, and what are the teething challenges?
One of our biggest problems is that there's not much innovation, there's not much creativity. Very poor quality work, low level of skill. So if they don't understand all these things, and for the local market it seems okay, you're exporting things to, you know, first world countries. They understand that things have to be of a certain standard. And I think that's one thing we don't have, standards.
So what's the future like for accents and art?
Looking at the possibility of the very near future, how we can use a lot of mechanization and industrial welding to produce these in volume and flood the timber market for people to be able to buy these flat pack pieces and then self-install them at home.
The story of Constance Swanepoel will bring you now our computer tips on your busy bits.
Do you want to close multiple windows all at once? Hold the Control key down and click on each of the tabs in the taskbar at the bottom of the screen that you want to close. Then right-click on one of the selected tabs and select Minimize Group from the menu that appears. You might also want to try the other options on this menu just to see what they do. Cascade, Tile horizontally, and Tile vertically. Selecting Close Group will close all the windows you have selected. As you get used to using the computer, you inevitably get used to having more and more windows open at once. This little trick can help you manage them more efficiently.
Time to say goodbye. You can always keep up to date on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao. I'll see you tomorrow.